Hello everybody and welcome to the fourth video in our series of videos on early Christian Ireland. Today we are going to be looking at some famous missionaries from Ireland and also at the decline of the early Christian Irish period thanks to the Vikings. As always, we begin with our learning outcomes. So by the end of this presentation you guys should know the names of three missionaries and two monasteries that were founded. Second, you guys should know when and where the first Viking attacks took place on Christian monasteries. And third, you guys should know three facts about the Vikings. So as we saw, Ireland up until 432 CE had been a pagan island, but within a century it became one of the most important centres for spreading Christianity throughout Europe. St. Columcille, pictured here, founded a monastery in Iona in Scotland in 563 AD. Another famous missionary, St. Columbanus, went all the way into France, known as Gaul at the time, to Switzerland and Italy, founding monasteries all over the place in Europe. And St. Aidan went from Iona here to Lindisfarne and founded another on the other side of England and founded a very famous monastery in 635 AD. And it is here at Lindisfarne that the first Viking attacks took place. And it was a real blow to the golden age of early Christian Irish life. They devastated the monastery, killing them and taking slaves and plundering the monasteries. We saw manuscripts in the last video, and sometimes within these manuscripts will be little notes written by the monks at the time. And one of the most famous quotes from a monk found in the manuscript was, "On a stormy night, on such a night I take ease," because they knew that the Vikings wouldn't attack on a night like this. But it shows the fear that the Vikings spread to the monks in early Christian Ireland. So who were the Vikings? Well, the Vikings originally came from Norway, Sweden and Denmark, part of Europe we know as Scandinavia. The Vikings travelled, raided and traded all the way from Baghdad to Mauritania in the west coast of Africa. They founded modern day Russia, Iceland, Greenland. They founded a colony in America, as you can see over here in 1000, known as Vinland. They were also a key part of Irish history. The Viking raids on the actual island of Ireland began only 3 years after the attack on Lindisfarne, when they attacked Rathlin Island, which we can see here in 759 CE. Within a 20-year period, there were at least 14 Viking raids. They carried off treasure and they carried off slaves. Many slaves were brought to settle their new colonies like Iceland. They eventually, however, began to set up settlements in towns such as Dublin, Wexford, Waterford, Cork, Limerick and Arklow. These settlements were known as long forts, and they were originally set up as winter camps, but they would soon develop into the towns that we know. They would build embankments like this with timber walls on top and around their settlements for defence. These towns became huge centres of trade, with Dublin becoming one of the most important cities in the Viking trading network, as it was seen as the midway point between the north and the south. As the Vikings brought this new way of life based on international trading and integrating with the Gaelic society, the prominence of the Christian church began to fade, so its power began to fade. So while monastic life will continue to be a big part of medieval life, which we will be exploring, the golden age that was the early Christian period in Ireland, where fantastic works of art and reliance on the monastery as the centre of communities came to an end around this time. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So by now you guys should know the names of three missionaries, so Columcille, Columbanus and St. Aidan, and two of the monasteries that were founded, so Lindisfarne and Iona. You guys should know when and where the first Viking attacks took place on Christian monasteries. So in Lindisfarne in 792 and in Rathlin Island in 795. And third, you guys should know 3 facts about the Vikings. So that could be where they came from, some of the colonies they founded, trading routes that they would have had, towns that they founded, or the developments of these towns from winter forts and how they defended them. That brings us to the end of our presentation. Hope you guys got something good from this video.